In this video, we're going to write PHP code to upload our picture to the server. So first of all, we're going to need to start a session using the session start function. We need a session because we're going to be using some session variables later on. And then we're going to connect to the database by including the connection.php file. All right, so for now, just to see what we've got inside the files array, we're just gonna print this array and show it on our web page. So if you remember, this array will contain all details about the files we're trying to upload. Okay, in our case, it's going to be the picture. So I'm going to save this, and then I'm going to go to the Ajax call, and in the success parameter, I'm going to alert this variable, which will store whatever is printed right there. Okay. So let's try this. Okay, so that's our files array. So you can see that inside the array, we've got another array with the key picture. And then inside that array, we've got another one. And we can see the name, type, temporary name of the file, which is the temporary location on the server, the error elements, so we've got 0 errors, and the size of our picture. All right. Okay, so now that we understood what's inside the files array, we are ready to use elements inside it. Okay, so to upload the picture to the server, we will need to move the picture from where it is right now, which is the temporary location, which is this one. We're going to need to move it to a permanent destination. Okay, so we're going to need to build that permanent destination. So let's define a variable permanent destination where we're going to store the final location of our picture. So if you remember, we have created a folder, profile picture, okay, where we're going to store all the pictures. All right, so at the moment we've got the empty picture right there. So to build the permanent destination, we're going to go to that folder, profile picture, and then we're going to find a name that is very hard to guess for our file. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to use the timestamp. So I'm going to add to that something using the timestamp, and that's the current time. And then we're going to apply the MD5 function to that timestamp. Okay. So we are using the hash function in order for us to make the process really hard, okay, for whoever wants to find the name of a file. Basically, if a user finds the name of any file that you are storing inside the profile picture folder, then they will be able to access your user's file, and that's exactly what you don't want. Okay, and then we are going to add to this the extension of the file. So we're going to need to get the extension of the file. So first, let's get the name of the file. So to get the name, we're going to need to go to picture, then name. Okay. Okay. Now to get the extension, there is a function we can use for this. So let's define a variable extension. and the function is called path_info. So this function is very practical. You just need to give it the name of the file and a second argument, path_info extension. Okay, and then it's going to give you the extension of the file. Okay, there are other ways to do this, but this is really the simplest way. Okay, so now we've got the extension, so we're going to add the extension to the final destination. Here we go. So that's the final or the permanent destination of our file. Okay, so now we are ready to move the file. So we're going to use a function called move_uploaded_file. Okay, so this has already been covered in the PHP chapter. Okay, so this function will take a couple of parameters. It's going to take the temporary location and the permanent location. So our temporary location can be accessed let's call it temporary name. We can access it by going to picture and then temp name. All right, so the first argument there is going to be temp name, and the second one is going to be our permanent destination. So if the function is successful, it's going to return true. So we're going to check the output of this function. Okay, so if everything goes fine, then we're going to run a query and then update this field right there. Okay, so we're going to place there the permanent destination of our picture, and then we're going to use it later to show the picture there and there. All right, so let's create a variable SQL where we're going to store our query. So the query is going to update our table users, and it's going to set the profile picture to the permanent destination. Okay, and the condition here is going to be based on the user ID. So we're going to check where user ID is the same as our user ID. So to get the user ID, we can use the session variable corresponding to the elements of key user ID. So let's define a variable right there and then set it to session user ID. Okay. So that's the query. So now let's run the query and store the results inside a result variable. So again, the query takes a couple of parameters, the connection link and the query. Okay, and now we're going to check if the query has been successful or the opposite. So let's check the opposite. So if the opposite of results, meaning the query is not successful, then we're going to echo an error message. Okay, so let's go for something like unable to update profile picture. Please try again later. Okay, and let's add a class alert and alert danger, just hide it. All right, so that's what we're going to show if the query fails, and if this function fails, we're going to have also an else statement where we're going to show an error message, and we're going to show exactly the same one. Okay, we will also check if we have any errors that show up right there. And that's completely different from whatever we're validating there. So to do this, let's retrieve that value first. and store it inside something we can call file error. Okay, so if file error is not equal to 0, or if file error is greater than 0, then we're going to echo an error message. Okay, and we can also add something like error code and just show whatever the error code is. Okay, so let's save. Now, before we try our code, we're going to go back to the profile.php file and just review the code we used to show these pictures, this one and that one. So before showing the picture, we're going to check if we have a value right there. So if that's the case, we're going to use that value to show the picture. Okay. So first, we're going to need to retrieve the value, okay, of the profile picture. So if we go to the top of the file, we can see that we've already fetched data, okay, in our results variable. So you've got the username, email, and we just need an extra one there for the profile picture. Let's call it picture. Okay, and that's going to be the elements of key profile picture. All right, so let's start with this image in the navigation bar. So instead of writing the image like that straight away, we're gonna copy this and then write some PHP code, which will check if the variable picture is empty. So we're going to use the empty function, which will take as a parameter the variable picture. So if that's the case, we're going to echo the same code. Just going to copy that again. And change double quotes into single quotes. Otherwise, we're going to use the permanent location of our picture using the picture variable. So instead of this, we're just going to use the picture variable like that. Okay. So let's go ahead and do the same thing with the preview picture. Okay, let's just copy the code to make it easy for us and save time. So that's our preview picture. So if the picture variable is empty, then we're going to use that code. Okay, let's go for the whole div. Okay, and change the double quotes into single quotes again. Okay, otherwise we're going to do the same thing, but this time use the picture variable for the source attribute. Okay, so let's save this. Refresh the page. Okay, so at the moment we can see the generic picture right there and right there. Okay, we need to delete that. Okay, let's try again. Okay, that's better. Okay, now we see this because the picture field is empty. Now let's upload a picture. There we go. And then let's submit. Okay, so we can see the alert message there. And also, if we update this, we will see the permanent destination. Now, if we refresh the page, we can see that our picture has been updated and updated right there as well. Okay, now let's go back to the Ajax call and just change this. So if the PHP file returns some data, that means that we've got an error. Okay, so what we're going to do, we're going to select the error div and set the HTML to data. Okay, and we're going to do that if we've got something inside data. Otherwise, we are just going to refresh the page, location, reload. Okay, so let's save. And let's try this. So let's choose another file, submit it. So you can see that because we are printing this file or that variable. So let's just comment that, so we don't need it anymore. So let's try again. Okay, let's choose another file. Submit. Okay, so you can see that the page has been reloaded and we can see our new picture. Okay. So in the next video, we're going to move to the trips page.